What's going on? What's going on, good people? Welcome to the Successes Within Reach podcast, season 2, episode 1. Let's get real about mental health. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, and here today we have a special guest. We have Miss Christina Leslie. I'm gonna bring her to the stage right now. One sec. All right, Miss Leslie, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
No complaints, no complaints. I woke up today.
That's always
All
good.
right, definitely. All right. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody that you can join in the conversation live and submit your questions and comments at www.facebook.com/SIWR podcast. One more time, www.facebook.com/SIWR podcast. Also, want to remind you that you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So join in, get connected, send your questions, send your comments, and we'll do our best to get them answered while we're live on the air. All right. First things first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose the fascinating mental health field.
Well, I started in this profession in 2011, right after I graduated from Southern University in Baton Rouge. I went to LSU for undergrad for psychology, and during that time, I was in a mentor program with one of my professors, Dr. Moore, and we mentored a lot of teenagers in schools around Baton Rouge. And so, with that program that we started, I really was interested in wanting to be supportive of our teenagers and kids in our inner cities. And so, with that, when I graduated from LSU, I was like, what am I going to do next? So I said, let me just get in mental health. God, push me in that direction. I received my master's in mental health counseling with a certification in school counseling. And then from that, I received my license. I'm a licensed professional counselor, a national certified counselor. And I'm also certified in telemental health. And so with that, I do have my own private practice. It's a group practice called Theratique here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then in the daytime, I'm a elementary school counselor.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, mental health is so multifaceted. Like,
Mhm.
is there a particular specialization that you have?
Yes. So in my private practice, I do specialize in working with young adults. I also work with children based on anxiety, depression, life transitions, sometimes college students as well, in grief and loss, and many things that people are going through. Sometimes people just want somebody to talk to. And so that's just their introduction into therapy and just helping them to come up with life goals. It could be small or, long-term goals that they want to work on, but they just need someone to help guide them. And so with my practice, I specialize in those areas. And lately, I've been getting a lot of educators in my profession, in my sessions. And so I feel that, educators are really seeing that they need someone to talk to because it's been a lot that they've been going through, especially within the past year. And so I'm glad
Definitely.
to be able to be supportive of them and provide that service.
Nice. So mental health is such an important part of our lives that often gets ignored, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Although it's vital to our success, both in our personal and professional lives. So what I want to ask you is, what are some common misconceptions about addressing mental health that you'd like to dispel for us?
Okay, some common misconceptions, I would say that as far as the therapy process is concerned, they think that, the therapist might go out and tell their business to other people, which is not the case because we can get sued for that. And so there's
Okay.
confidentiality with that. So what happens in our practice stays in our practice or within those four walls, unless they're trying to hurt themselves, hurt someone else, or there's any type of abuse, because we still want to make sure that not only our clients, but the community is safe as well. Another
Mhm.
misconception about mental health is that, people think that everyone has to be on medication for for any mental health or mental illness that's going on, and that's not the case. It's case by
Mm-hmm.
case. It's something personal. It's something that you choose to do. So medication is not always the answer for trying to cure mental health. And that's another, misconception that people think, is that just because they have a mental illness or things going on, that they can't get help with it. And there's people out
Mm-hmm.
there, if they can look, and that will be able to help them.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, you spoke about your increased clients this year in different fields due to what took place in 2020.
Hmm.
It was an unbelievably unpredictable year, to say the least. That
Yes.
brought a multitude of emotions out of all of us. Most notably, you saw a lot of people expressing, that they were dealing with fear and panic and anxiety and depression for multiple reasons. So, the next question I want to ask are, what are some ways that we can not only acknowledge these emotions, but we can positively or constructively work through them in hopes to overcome them?
Hmm. So, with that, with the pandemic, we saw social isolation because, we used to go out and about and, hang out with our friends, our family members, hug and, kiss one another. And we can't do
Hmm.
that anymore. We have people that are overthinking because our lives have slowed down tremendously. So it went from, everyone just going about their days doing, X, Y, and Z, and now just being home, being within their thoughts. And so that's when a lot of that paranoia, that fear comes about, because you're overthinking and you're over your thoughts about what's going on. As
Hmm.
well as, with the paranoia with COVID-19, people think that, if you start coughing or sneezing, you have you have the virus, and that
Yeah.
gives you a lot of panic. If you start Googling, your symptoms, it can take
Hmm.
you, to an anxiety place that you don't need to go in. And so, with
Hmm.
that paranoia, that can happen as well. And so, and also not being able to do your normal day-to-day things, and sitting here and being in this pandemic, we have to ask ourselves, were we really living a quote unquote normal life? Because
Yeah.
it was a lot of fast paced moving that we were all doing, especially myself. I'm a school counselor. I have my private practice. I have a 9-year-old son. So we, from 6:45 to around 8 p.m., we're out and about doing different things. He's in karate as well. And so, it's a
Hmm.
lot that we have to do. And so with the pandemic, it slowed a lot of things down. And, as far as, I'm concerned, I was able to really think, I really, I spend time with my son, but I really need to sit
Hmm.
down and spend, real time with him, especially with us having virtual school going on again right now. And so,
Definitely.
that's something, as well as what I'm talking about as far as overthinking and being in your thoughts. You start thinking about, was the life I'm living normal? What is going to be the new normal, and how long is
Hmm.
this pandemic going to go? So it's a lot of questions that we ask ourselves that we necessarily don't have the answers to. And then also, when we could talk about love languages, they have people that their love language is quality of time or physical touch,
Hmm.
and those things are not going on. And so, I have clients in my private practice that voice those concerns, that they're not getting those needs met, and that's taking a toll on them. And so, we have to acknowledge those thoughts that we have. We have to acknowledge that we are scared, we are fearful. This is a pandemic that we never have experienced before, and we're not alone. So I think that we really have to make sure that we acknowledge what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and then from that,
Hmm.
we need to learn how to proceed and do healthy things, and have healthy self-esteem and healthy self-care activities that we do as well, to help continue to have our mind going in the right direction.
Definitely. So I think more people got familiar with the term self care in
Hmm.
2020 than any
Yeah.
year ever. That's all you heard about.
Hmm.
In terms of the spike in mental health issues or just people dealing with emotions overall, did you see that there was a a bigger issue with the isolation out of children and teens or out of the adults?
I think it's about what and what, because when you look at children, there are, when they're in school, they're in a structured environment, they're around their friends, their teachers. Sometimes school is
Hmm.
the safest place for our kids. They get, 2 meals a day. Some kids get an extra snack. And so
Hmm.
we have to realize that, because of the pandemic, most of that is taken away from them. They have to be in their
Yeah.
homes where it could have been, traumatic just to be there. And so we have to really take account to what our kids are dealing with, on a day-to-day basis as far as this pandemic is concerned. And with adults,
Hmm.
it's a lot of transitions with us as well, because like I said, we're not doing our quote unquote normal things that we used to do. We're not being around our
Hmm.
family and friends like we want to. We're not traveling. We're not and you still have to be cautious when you do go out. And so that's when that heightened paranoia and anxiety comes in as well. So we have to be mindful of those things. And adults are having some issues with the pandemic and being in isolation, because like I said, you can't go out there and do what you want to do. You have to
Yeah.
stay back and be at home and trying to figure out what to do in just that one space that you're in.
Definitely, definitely. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to season 2 of the Successes Within Reach podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, here with Miss Christina Leslie as we get real about mental health. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. I'm ready to get the most. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Before we get back into it, just want to remind everybody you can join in the conversation and submit your questions and comments at www.facebook.com/SIWR podcast. One more time, www.facebook.com/SIWR podcast. All right, moving right along. Last year resulted in millions of people working and schooling at home, which we just briefly spoke about.
Mm.
And it brought about major adjustments for a lot of families as well as for a lot of relationships. Gave us a chance to reconnect with a lot of people that usually we only deal with for a few hours in the evening and on weekends because of our busy on the go lives that we were used to at one time.
Mhm.
So for those that have loved ones that haven't adjusted well to the isolation and the protocols brought about by the pandemic, what would you say are some signs that we should be aware of that our loved ones are struggling and possibly having a mental health crisis? And what do we do about it? How do we help them?
Mhm. So to look at signs, and it can be different for different people. And, sometimes signs aren't there actually. We have our strong friends that, we have to check on, that sometimes they don't, exhibit those things that, we feel that, oh, this is a sign that they need help. So, we have to make sure
Mm.
that we're mindful of that. But some signs that you can look for is, we say isolation like we're all in isolation, but there's a difference. So if you have a family member who you can always contact, or, if you even do a drive by, wave, hi, hello, and they're not coming out the door, or, if you see their lights out or something like that, you can see that that might be an area of concern. Something else
Hmm.
would be, if you're in the house with that person, maybe they're drinking a lot or doing drugs. There's some, extensive things that can possibly happen, unfortunately, but they do happen.
Hmm.
And so we have to make sure that if it's anything that's out of the ordinary, even conversations that you might have with them, if they might be a little bit snippier than usual, or they're not as talkative, those are some things maybe you
Hmm.
want to, not necessarily ask the question, how are you doing? But maybe ask some different questions, to try to get them to open up to see how you can help them. Now, as far as ways that you can help them, it's based on severity level, is based on what they feel like they need. Because if you're trying to help your family member, you can't do as much work, for them as they want to do for themselves. Because if you're
Hmm.
pushing, hey, Johnny, you need to go to therapy, you need to see somebody to get help, If he doesn't want to go, he's not going to go. Or if he goes, he's not going to put that much effort into getting what he actually needs out of that. And so you want to
Hmm.
make sure that you are supportive of your family member. Maybe go to an appointment with them, and and
Hmm.
hold their hand. Try to find some therapists that might fit into what they might like. Some people like say, they straight up with me say, I was looking for a black
Hmm.
female therapist, and I looked you up, and I'm saying, "Oh, okay, great," because it's, the conversation is different. Some people have a
Yeah.
different conversation when it's someone of their, same race. Some people want
Hmm.
somebody that, that has a specialization in drugs and alcohol, or a
Hmm.
specialization in relationships. And so it all depends on what you need and what you want at that particular time. Some other resources, you can look at psychologytoday.com. So you can type in your zip code, find therapists in that area. There's a face with the name. You can go by your insurance company, see what people are in network with you, or
Hmm.
you can also go to other websites. There's let me see, I wrote it down so I could let my people know where to go. So there's therapy for Black girls that you can go on. There's Black female therapists. They have a website as well. There's Clinicians of
Hmm.
Color website, Better Help. Therapy for Black men. That's a big one. I want my guys to know that there's help out there for you all as well. So, that's something I really want to push, because we might talk about that later, but I just want to make sure that Black men, y'all
Hey,
can
all
get
good. We need it.
y'all can get therapy too. Trust me. And
Facts.
then there's also the National Queer and Trans Therapists of Color Network, and then there's GLMA for my LGBTQ IA plus focus. So there's something out there for everybody. And so if you feel like none of those people match you, you can reach out to me, and I could try to help you resource as well. Another thing I would say would be your insurance company. So if you
Hmm.
have insurance, you can call your insurance, say, "Hey, I'm looking for a therapist in my area." You can say you're looking for a Black therapist, a therapist that specializes in something that you're dealing with, and they'll be able to help you. Also, you can try your job. Some companies have an EAP, or employee assistance
Hmm.
program, where you can get a certain number of sessions for free, and it's strictly confidential. People not gonna talk about your business while you're at work. You just
Hmm.
contact your HR team and say, "Hey, do y'all have a EAP program? I'm looking for a therapist," and they'll be able to help you in that way as well. So there's many ways that you can try to reach out to someone to get help.
Hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. I hope y'all were taking notes on those resources and websites. Like she said, if you couldn't get it all, or if you want to chat with her later, we'll make sure that we get her information out to you at the end of the show. We got a question from the crowd. Yvonne Hill says, "Is there a difference between mental health and mental illness?" That's a really good question.
Yes, thank you for that question. And there is a difference between that, because your mental health is just as important as the rest of your health. You have your physical health, your medical health. You have to take all of those into consideration. So mental health is something
Hmm.
that's almost something that we all have. As far as the mental illness, that is something that's diagnosed by someone in the mental health field, such as a licensed professional counselor, a social worker, psychiatrist, or psychologist. Someone in the medical field that will be able to diagnose you based on a certain criteria. And so those diagnoses come into where your normal things that you do, your mental health is now playing a part in that, and you aren't able to do those things as you should. And so that's when a possible diagnosis could come into play. And just because you have a diagnosis, you are not that diagnosis. You just so happen to have that diagnosis. There's a difference.
Hmm.
And so, it's not a label that you have. If you have major depressive disorder, or anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, any of those diagnoses, you aren't those things. It's just so happened that, you're finding ways to cope with those things.
Nice, nice. And just want to hit on it one more time. Y'all know, if you know, for those that were here on the last episode of season one, you know, myself and my guest got into it. Fellas, there's nothing wrong with getting some help. Like we please, we gotta erase that stigma, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Go see a therapist, a counselor, your pastor, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do better on the mental health piece. Got to do better. And that is a pretty good transition to my next question. So, getting therapy in itself is a huge step for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people don't know where to start, or they don't know how much to share. Like you said, a lot of people have a lot of hesitations about what they can share, if that's going to be shared. And finding the right counselor or therapist can be tricky. So,
Mm-hmm.
what are some tips for finding the right person that you link up with, and how do you, which you just went through some of the resources, but how do you know if that person really has expertise in handling your issues? If you find that they don't, how do you go about finding someone else? Because a lot of people feel like whoever I picked, I'm kind of stuck with them. I've already told the insurance about it and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what would be your suggestions for that?
Yeah. So finding a therapist is just like finding your favorite pair of shoes. One day they fit, one day they fit,
Okay.
they feel nice, and then the next day you might say, this isn't a right fit, or it doesn't go with my outfit, or I don't like these shoes anymore. You can look at that as
Mhm.
your therapist as well, and trust me, you aren't hurting my feelings or any of my my colleagues feelings if you say, hey, you're not a right fit, I'm gonna go find someone else, or can you help me find someone else? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you are well, that you're working on yourself, and you're putting in the work to make sure that you become a better person. And so,
Mhm.
you ask those questions, you have that consultation with that therapist prior to, filling out any information or anything. You ask them what do they specialize in? You ask them, what do you want to you want them to help you with, you know,
Mhm.
and you can ask those questions like that. You can also ask where they are as far as location, because that might be a question. That might be something if you're catching a bus or streetcar, you're walking, riding your bike. Location might play a part into that. And now with the
Mhm.
pandemic, I have clients that are virtual. We use Zoom, or I have clients that want to come into the office because they feel like they're stuck at home. That
Mhm.
leaves them, with somewhere to go. And so that might be another thing. Might have therapists that say, I only see clients virtually, but a client wants to meet in person, and vice versa.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure that we keep those questions in mind. Also about insurance. Some therapists take insurance, some therapists don't take insurance. And so that's a question that you have to ask as well, because you might love that therapist, but their rate might be too high for you to pay. And so you have to
Yeah.
take those things into consideration.
Gotcha. Um, as the state of the world improves in some areas, unfortunately, it worsens in other areas. And we're left trying to find some type of balance to create, you know, quote unquote, a new normal. What are some strategies that you have for creating a proper work life balance?
Mhm. First, I would say would be to recognize what your work life is and recognize what your home life is. Because
Hmm.
once we acknowledge what both of those areas are, we can then prioritize what's more important. And then from that, we can narrow that down into what are some things that you can control in both of those environments. And we have to make sure that you do have work. We have people that are workaholics that work a lot, but then also they know that they have to maintain a home life. They can't always
Hmm.
work 24 hours 24/7. That they have to make sure that they put some things in place for themselves to make sure that once I'm gone from work, or once I turn this computer off or get off my phone, what is the next thing that I'm going to do? And so that's like I said, jot you some things down that you want to do at home that you can do. Set yourself some limits as far as work is concerned. If you're a person that
Hmm.
can leave work at work, I wish I could. But for those people that can do that, leave that work there and find things that you want to do, at home, or, if you want to take a walk, or, watch
Hmm.
TV, do something that you enjoy. If you're a person where you have to take your work home sometimes, give yourself a limit. Say, even though I have to do this project or this assignment, I'm gonna take maybe an hour or 2 hours to do that. After that, I'm gonna shut down my computer. Something else that
Mm-hmm.
you can do: don't do your work in your room where you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's your resting place. I learned how to do that, and sometimes my mind, I used to have my computer in my room, never turn it on because my body said no, that's not where you're supposed to be doing your
Yeah.
work. And so create yourself, especially if you are able to work from home, create yourself a little area within your home where you can have a little office area and leave it that way. So when you go in your room, that's your quiet time, that's your resting time, just for you.
Gotcha, gotcha. And it's funny you brought up. I wish I could leave mine at work. That's something that I've often thought about as a counselor or a therapist. How do you all unplug sometimes? Because all day long you're taking on so much from everybody that you're talking to. And I already know sometimes it can be, oh, okay, that's pretty simple. We can fix that. To what in the world? I need to pour a drink. So what is it that you all do sometimes to unplug and just unwind, so that you don't become so consumed with what it is that your clients are bringing to you?
Yeah, and that was a question that some of my colleagues and I had a few weeks ago, about the same thing. How do we decompress? How do we get out of that therapist mindset and just be us, be human? One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I can say that I do, sometimes one weekend maybe out of the month, because I do see clients on Saturdays. I don't see
Mm-hmm.
clients maybe one Saturday out the month, or
Okay.
and or I don't see clients on Friday either. So I give myself that break. Something else that we do, sometimes we might have a list of clients for that day, and we might have our own personal things going on, and instead of us being in our head while we're trying to help our clients, we might reschedule our clients, especially if
Mm-hmm.
it's client. Most of 9 times out of 10 clients are fine. We don't have to explain why we are rescheduling, but they're able to say, okay, I can move it to another day. Things do happen. And so when you feel like, as a therapist, today is not your day to do any type of therapy with anybody, try to solve or help people solve. That's what people think. We solve their
Right.
problems. No, we don't. We help you to create ways that you can solve your own problems. And so we want
Gotcha.
to make sure that we are in the right mind frame to be able to be of support to our clients. Something else that we do to decompress, we might vent to our colleagues about different things. I do case consultations just to make sure we might have a difficult client that we're working on, and having that case consultation, we're not giving out names or anything, just generic information. But we might get another way that we can look at how to best support that client.
Mm-hmm. So I guess a part B to that question is, what do you do to stop like your family and friends and loved ones from saying, "Hey, let me tell you something right quick that I've been going through," or from blowing your phone up at 2 in the morning because life is happening.
Setting boundaries. That's what we have to do,
Gotcha.
set those boundaries. Sometimes if I have somebody on the phone and they venting, I might put it on speaker, let them go, because sometimes people just want somebody to listen. I give them
Mm-hmm.
that time, and then I let them know, I'm sorry to hear that, or I try to help them with that situation, but then I have to make sure that I continue on with my day as well, because one thing that I have noticed and really realized is that everybody has to make sure that we aren't overstepping our boundaries with our friends and our loved
Mm-hmm.
ones. We have to ask
Definitely.
those questions like, can I talk to you, right quick, or do you have a minute? Or asking those questions. I'll say, I don't want to be a burden, but do you have a few minutes? Can I run something by you right quick? And
Mm-hmm.
we can give them that time, say, hey, right now is not a good time, but maybe tomorrow or later on I can talk to you. you know, maybe you might have a, you might be on vacation and somebody's calling you saying, girl, look what happened. I said, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm on vacation. When I get off vacation, we could continue this conversation, or you can text me because I'm not about to call and have this conversation and I'm looking at a beach.
I
So,
heard that.
we have to make sure that we create and set boundaries, not only with our clients, but we have to make sure we set those boundaries with our family and our loved ones. And with
Hmm.
family, it can be difficult because they don't understand the word no, or they don't understand, oh, I'm busy, or they don't understand you not answering a phone call or they text. But you have to make sure what is more important, your mental sanity and your mental health, or
Hmm.
trying to appease somebody else.
Gotcha. Definitely understand that. So to sum it up, don't call and ask what's for dinner and then try to get a free consultation in, people. Come on now. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take one more quick break and we will be right back. This break is brought to you by Breakthrough Kings. All right, welcome back. Welcome back to the Successes Within Reach podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Smith, here joined with Miss Christina Leslie as we get real about mental health. So this next one I want to get into because it's really, really big that a lot of people identify with this and stop doing it. So many people suffer in silence because they think that whatever they're going through, it'll just work itself out and it'll go away, or because of fear, or in some cases because of shame,
Mhm.
because of what's happened to them, what they've experienced, or what they've been through. So I want to ask you to elaborate on the importance of avoiding self sabotage and getting mental health assistance sooner rather than later once it's turned into a full blown crisis.
Mhm. So I would say to that is, acknowledge what's going on. Even if you're suffering in silence, it's still suffering. And so,
Hmm.
just understanding that and acknowledging that. And sometimes we feel we want to get help, but don't know how to get help, or who to turn to, or who to trust, or who is really there to help support us. And so,
Yeah.
with that, and having platforms like this, and Instagram, a lot of people are really talking about mental health and breaking that stigma, understanding that everybody go through different things in their life, and
Hmm.
having them to understand that they're not alone in their suffering. And so maybe a group therapy session might be something that might be more beneficial to them, because they will be able to then see that they aren't the only ones dealing with what they're going through. you know, Possibly, reaching out to maybe that one or, two people that they feel like are part of their support system, to really have those, conversations. But, with that, it's, a level of vulnerability that everyone isn't accustomed to, everyone isn't able to do. But once you're able
Hmm.
to do that, realize all the doors that can be open for you just for asking, for help. And so we have to make
Hmm.
sure that, whoever is suffering, even, like we mentioned earlier about some signs and symptoms, be
Hmm.
there for, that person. Maybe sometimes your friend or your loved one, they're still, suffering in silence. But if you're just there for them, just sitting on a couch, or talking to them outside or something like that, or just sitting down watching the sky, that's
Hmm.
better than nothing, especially if you know that your friends or your loved ones have been going through something, or something has traumatic has happened. And it could be something small, something as small as we're in school one day and then the next day we're going back to virtual. And so that can
Hmm.
be something upsetting and traumatic for parents, because they have to figure out child care for their kids. And so that can be something that they feel that, oh, I have to do this by myself. No, you don't.
Hmm.
There's help out there. You put that question out there, people are going to have an answer for you that are willing to want to help support you.
Gotcha. So, another thing I want to ask you, and unfortunately, it happens a lot in our community. Not saying it doesn't happen in others, but I know it happens a lot in ours where we have relatives that you can tell there's something going on or that they've been through something, but people just brush it off as, oh, that's just such and such. That's how they are. Don't pay such and such any mind. That they've always been like that. How do we break that cycle and address our loved ones and tell them, no, like, no, this is not okay, this behavior or this cycle that you're in? Let's go and talk to somebody. Like, how do we do that without them putting up that brick wall and getting, defensive about it?
Yeah, it's all about delivery on how you,
Hmm.
approach that family member or that friend. You have to go at them in a more supportive way. You can't say, "Oh, you crazy," or you just talking to yourself, or
Yeah.
"Oh, you depressed, you need to get up." It's not that easy. Just
Hmm.
because somebody's feeling down or they're always in their bed because they're lethargic or having symptoms of depression or anxiety or any mental illness, you know, it's not just one fix. It's different levels to how you are able to help support and how the treatment is for someone who has mental illness. And so we have to
Hmm.
make sure that we might just start educating them. Hey, I saw these possible symptoms or signs that you are going through. I want to see if you are interested in getting some help. These are some therapists that I found. I'm willing to come with you to any sessions if, that would help you. But, I really feel that, this might benefit you to, help you to, enjoy your life more or make sure that you get the help that you want so you can have more of a stabilized mindset.
Gotcha. That's great information. Like I said, we have to break that cycle of just passing things over and, oh, that's just such and such. You know how they are. Like, come on now, let's start helping each other out. Each one teach one.
Yeah.
All right. So, as we prepare to wrap up, I want to ask you to share with our audience what's new for you in 2021 and how they can get in contact with you for assistance. Plug your social media platform for those that want to reach out as well.
Okay. So, well, this was new for 2021. Being on your podcast, thanks to my profile here. So, being on this podcast, two, doing more self care for myself, being more intentional with that. Being that I'm
Hmm.
a therapist, I want to make sure that I, continue to have a sound mind and, continue to evolve in my practice by going to, continuing education and conferences and things like that, to make sure that I can be the best help for my clients, and those friends and loved ones who do call. I can be able to help them as well. Some other things, possibly some more podcasts in the future, or in the process of writing a blog, an article with my school about STEM and social and emotional learning. So that's
Hmm.
something that I'm doing as well. And so whatever God has out there for me to do as far as my license, I'm willing to do it. I'm in my second year of saying yes to things that scare me. So I'm doing that as well. If anyone would like to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, C Leslie 20, and I'm on Clubhouse. So you can reach me any of those platforms on Facebook. You can send me a message. You can send me a DM on Instagram, a message on Twitter. I look at all of those, and if you have a question about mental health, I've had friends and loved ones in the past who hit my chat or DM and say, hey, you know, do you have any suggestions for any therapists in Houston or California, New York? And I'm able to provide them with some assistance. So if anyone has some any questions just about mental health or mental illness in general, you can reach out to me.
Nice, nice. Shout out to everybody in the audience that's been commenting and posting.
Thank
I
y'all.
see you got a fan section here.
I
Nothing
see.
wrong with that. Shout out to everybody that's been commenting and joining in with us. Once again, this is season 2, episode 1 of the Successes Within Reach podcast, getting real about mental health. All right, we got a few more comments still coming in. Want to make sure to get these in here so you can see your people showing you love, your people
See, I
showing you
see.
love.
I appreciate y'all.
Nice, nice. So something I want to do a little different here for season 2. I want to leave you all with a mind shift moment, and I figure since we're doing mental health, my mind shift moment will, be something a little applicable to that. So today's moment, or this week's moment rather, is life becomes easier when you learn to accept the apologies that you'll never receive. I'll say that one more time. Life becomes easier when you learn to accept the apologies that you'll never receive. You can't control what others say, and you can't control what others don't say. But what you can control is how you respond to each scenario and how you move on from it. You have to remember anything that costs you your piece is too expensive and it must go not now, but right now. And last but not least, you have to remember that the world owes you nothing, but you owe yourself everything. You weren't designed to be good, you were designed to be great. And that is this week's mind shift moment. Hope somebody received that and it helps you out, blesses your life. Again, I want to thank everybody that's been in the comment section, everybody that's liked, shared, joined in, been active. I want to remind you that I'm here every Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. And also, I heard from someone that you have a birthday coming up.
Oh, I do.
So,
I forgot.
want to want to shout that out and
Thank
wish
you.
you a very happy early birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And nobody call her and get a free consultation on her birthday. That's her day.
Oh no, that'll be Saturday, so don't do it.
I just want to put that out there. Once again, I'm your host, Shannon Smith. This has been Successes Within Reach. You can find me here again next week. I'll have another guest. Next week's topic is navigating through a toxic work environment, something that I'm sure a whole lot of people need to, you know, tune in for and learn how to navigate through that. A lot of us, yeah, that's a rough one for a lot of people.
Yes.
So I want to thank you again, Ms. Leslie. This has been
Thank
an
you.
awesome episode. Hope that you come back again. This is a super important topic that we need for our community, for our generation, and just with everything that we got going on in the country here. Probably gonna need to decompress some after next week. National U-Haul Day. I'll just leave it at that. And yeah.
I got
Thank
boxes of
everybody.
meal.
Thank everybody for rocking out with us, and I will see you next Thursday. Later.
Bye.